Happy Thursday, right up our alley and viewers. I'm back to my regularly scheduled second and fourth Thursday, and I'm here today to follow up on my last video because, as I mentioned then, I was interviewed by Phil Johnson, the host of Under the Crossbones, about my upcoming novel, Gup the Sailor and the Devil to Pay, and its prequel in the Gup the Sailor series. Here's a short clip of that, and then I'll provide a link to the full interview in the video description below.
And my guest today is Jenai Marek, and she is the author of The Dangerous Voyage of Gup the Sailor, and which is a great book. I really enjoyed reading it. And she's just started her Kickstarter for the second book in the series called The Devil to Pay. Dig it. We're here today. We're going to talk about your book, the Gup the Sailor series, which you have one out now, and I think you're getting ready to do Kickstarter on the second one. And we have lots of stuff to talk about. So first, give me the log line of the Gup series. I just finished reading it. I really enjoyed the first one. But for those who haven't read it yet, give us the log line of what's happening.
All right. Well, we start off with a young boy named Gup. He is a sailor. He was literally born and raised on his father's ship. And his father and mother are a very famous privateer married duo.
Okay.
And they work under the king of a country known as Jarendale, because the world of Gup the Sailor is a fictitious fantasy type world. But I drew in a lot of historical piracy aspects to really enhance the story and bring it to life, and also inspire children to read more into the history of piracy itself. Mm-hmm. It starts right off with him being basically left marooned on this very conservative island and thrown into an orphanage. And it's these orphans wanting to know why this sailor boy is with them. And he just starts telling them his story. And that's basically where it starts off. And before you know it, he ends up getting a boat of his own and sailing with orphans and rejects from the town. And he goes on this wild adventure to find his parents again. So that's
nice.
the premise of the first book. And it does conclude nicely, but I left a huge opening for it to continue on, because I have 2 more books in his story already mapped out and ready to go. The second book is written. It's in the editing phase. And the third book is completely outlined out. It just needs to be written.
Fantastic. That's really great. And like I said, I did really enjoy the first book.
Great.
And it's a book designed, it's a young adult book. I am decidedly well past young adult, and I still enjoyed it, so adults will like it too.
Yeah, I wrote it for basically, I'd say, for the ages of 10 to 100.
Okay.
Because if you can't write a children's book that adults can't enjoy, it just doesn't work.
Right, yeah, and I am definitely between those ages.
Me too.
So why, I have a couple questions.
Yes.
Why did you decide to go with a YA style book rather than a full adult style book? What was your background on that where you decided that was a good way to go?
One of the reasons was because I first started writing the book when my only son was born.
Uh-huh.
And I had been raised to love reading books. And one of my favorites, of course, was...
So as you can see, podcasts are a great way to reach potential readers, because you can speak directly about your book to a wide subgroup of your target audience. And just for fun, I'd like to talk a bit about what the podcast didn't cover that would have given the audience an even closer look at the author, me. During my interview, I mentioned my thoughts on one of the greatest pirate novels of all time by Robert Louis Stevenson, Treasure Island. Though our interview had cut out this segment due to an unfortunate technical error at the end of the interview, I had originally presented my feminist insight into the story, which I'd love to share with you. When I was in high school, my perception of the characters began to shift a little, and my appreciation for Mrs. Hawkins, Jim's mother, became the character I identified with the most in the narrative, and I regretted that she didn't accompany Jim on his journey for treasure. Those beginning chapters in the novel had me feeling that her tenacity and resilience could have been a final worthy match for Long John Silver that he never met. The very fact that she'd steal from a corpse who was in debt to her basically just screamed pirate to me, and as a young reader, I desperately wanted to see a book where Mrs. Hawkins sold her husband's inn, bought a boat, and raised Jim on the high seas. That said, it would have been a much shorter book if she'd sunk Silver's plans for mutiny with all of her wiles and devil-may-care approach to life. All of the piracy in that novel, Mrs. Hawkins was a force not to be reckoned with. She was the pirate in the novel. And of course, this inspired me when writing The Dangerous Voyage of Gup the Sailor to make his own mother just as wily and cunning as she. That said, poor Ben would probably still be marooned with all that treasure if my hypothetical plot were ever realized. I believe Mrs. Hawkins' instincts would have run Silver's mutiny plot afoul long before Jim discovered it from inside of that apple barrel, thus removing the pirates from their treasure-seeking journey and potentially never coming across the marooned Ben at all. But c'est la vie. Another missed opportunity I wish I could have covered in my interview with Phil Johnson was my love of the pirate shanty Jackarow. It's a love story that loosely inspired the love of Captain and Lady Hack from my own book. Though it's not discussed in my narrative of Gup the Sailor, I believe that these lyrics from the song were recited by Captain Hack to Lady Maggie Rivers upon their first meeting, and it were his singing this song to her that drove her to run away with him. Here's a bit of the song for your enjoyment.
There was a wealthy merchant in London, he did dwell. He had a beautiful daughter, the truth to you I'll tell. Oh, the truth to you I'll tell. She had sweethearts aplenty and men of high degree, but none but Jack the Sailor her own true love could be. Oh, her own true love could be. This couple, they got married, so well they did agree. This couple, they got married, so why not you and me? Oh, why not you and me?
Okay, that's all I have to talk about for today. Don't forget that my upcoming novel, Gup the Sailor and the Devil to Pay, is live on Kickstarter. I've dropped a link down in the description below and ask that if you'd like to know more about my book and perhaps help me fund the production costs of publishing it, become a backer today. And if financial backing isn't something you're interested in doing but you still want to help, please share my Kickstarter link on all of your social media platforms and help me spread the word about my next adventure of Gup the Sailor. Read at me, hearties. Yo-ho!
I too can command the wind, sir! I have a hurricane in me that will strip Spain bare if you dare to try me!